Welcome back to the Fine Print. I'm here again with Michelle and Troy Chapman from Highly Rooted in Hyde Park, Vermont. Thanks for coming right back, guys. I want to ask you about the different types of extracts, because it seems like there's all kinds of wax and oil and diamonds and all of these rosins. And could you maybe explain the difference between all of these extracts?
So there's a lot of differences. The first major one is whether it's a solid concentrate or an oil-based concentrate. So a solid concentrate would be like a bubble hash, or keef is considered a solid concentrate. And then you have the oil-based concentrates, which are the BHO extraction options, which are crumble, shatter. You have live resin. And the live resin is made by extracting it while the plant is still fresh. There's no drying or curing involved.
Oh.
You take it and freeze it and extract it live.
Oh.
And that's where the live resin comes from.
Huh. I never tried that.
You will. I'll get you some.
I never heard of that. I've never even heard of that, honestly.
Really?
And,
All right, well,
it really it has a much stronger terpene profile because it hasn't degraded from the drying and curing process.
Interesting. Okay. And what about these diamonds, man? What are the diamonds about?
It's a BHO extract, and you're forming crystals just like you would like making rock candy with sugar, basically.
Oh.
Once the crystals start to form, they'll form like exponentially, and you'll get a little jar full of diamonds. I mean, it's a really interesting process. You can also make them using a rosin press. You have to press multiple times at very low temperatures in between, and what you're getting each time is just different terpenes and waxes, and the end product almost looks like cocaine. It's like a white crystalline powder, and that's THCA. It's crystallized diamonds, if you will.
Fish scale.
pretty much. And then caviar is the diamonds, but with the terpenes added back in. And most people prefer that because dry diamonds don't have a taste to it. And it's definitely, hold on one second.
You got a dog? Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh. We take a short commercial break. This is a good one, isn't it? Free fecal for cancer patients. That's nice.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Cool. No, I was just here talking to myself. I think that'll be funny.
I'm sorry. I had to close the camera when long story. My parents lived next door, and when my husband got sick, they moved up to help, and
Fair enough. No worries. What were we talking about? Diamonds.
Oh yeah, diamond. The caviar is the terpenes added back in to the THCA crystals, and it gives it a lot terpier of flavor, and they're a lot more wet. It's a better example. Oh shit.
Whatever.
It look a little more.
Oh,
wet.
it looks like honeycomb or something.
Yeah, but if you can see in there the big
Oh yeah.
clumps, those the THCA crystals. But most people prefer the caviar because it does have the terpenes. And once again, that goes back to the entourage effect. All of those working together, the terpenes helping the THCA to give you a better high. I would much rather smoke caviar over THCA, even though the THC content in diamonds is higher per gram. I would still prefer caviar.
I see a caviar. That's another one I've never heard of.
I think there's a lot to be said about THC content not being the end all be all. I think a lot of people think that like, oh, it's 30%, so it's going to be delicious. Well, guess what? If it doesn't have a good terpene profile, it might get you really stoned, but it's not going to be pleasurable. You're not going to enjoy it. I would much rather be in like the high teens and low 20s and have something that just overtakes me with terpenes when I open the jar.
And then the entourage effect also does produce a better high and in my opinion, a stronger high.
Huh. Yeah, that's definitely, I feel like the THC content is sort of, I don't want to say it's overrated, but I feel like people place an unnecessary amount of weight on that one, specific feature of the plant, and maybe it's not, doesn't give you a full picture.
It relates back to alcohol. The same way that people look at liquor. I actually don't drink, so I don't know. I have not a clue what percent any alcohol is. But like, if you only have, let's say $20 and you're trying to buy a fifth, you're going to go with the one that has the highest alcohol percentage, right? If you don't care about taste, you can get like lighter fluid. I don't even know, Burnett.
Some alcohol in there. Yeah.
But, or juice back in the day when you were looking you looked at the one with the highest alcohol content, and that's fine when we're talking about alcohol. But when we're talking about THC content, it doesn't matter just about the THC. It's more than just the content. But with alcohol, it is the content. You're looking at that beer and you know that this has X amount of alcohol content, and you do it that way. Whereas with THC, the THC is that content, but the other cannabinoids help it.
So when you see a cancer patient, do you have like an intake meeting with them and sort of feel out like what type of things might be more helpful for them?
Yep, it is a very emotional 3 hours, to say the least. It's normally
3 hours.
Oh yeah, it's normally about 3 hours because there's so many questions, especially if they've never smoked before. The first half of the conversation is them almost interviewing me to see if I'm just some crazy hippie lady with weed, and I'm basically being interrogated to see if they should even listen to talk to me or continue anything. And then once I open their mind somewhat, then comes all the questions about how, why, what does this do? Well, what's going to happen if I do this? And why do I have to do it this way? And, but that's part of it. Unfortunately, you trust someone in a white coat that prescribes you something without asking questions. But when it comes to cannabis, people want to ask questions, and that's what we're here for. We want them to understand what they're doing and understand what they're taking and how it's going to help them. A lot of our job is actually convincing people to try it, because a lot of older people have cancer and a lot of older people are still under the reefer madness beliefs.
There's a lot of different ways to treat cancer too. So if we don't understand exactly what their treatment plan is on the medical side, then we are just basically guessing at what's going to be the most beneficial for them. Like, okay, so you're going through chemotherapy, you're definitely going to want something for neuropathy. But if you were doing radiation as opposed to chemotherapy, I don't know that you would have the same level of neuropathy. So
we can put the resources where that person needs them.
Yeah, interesting point, Troy. Yeah.
Depending on what they're going through, how long they're going through it, stuff like that. And, it definitely changes. We give someone one thing and they're like, I can't take this. The biggest form of way that we give FICO is through a chocolate. It's a little tiny mint.
I was going to ask you how you package it and keep it shelf stable.
Well, we originally would just give people the FICO oil, but it's a very thick tar-like substance. And once again, if you're going through chemo, most likely you've got neuropathy and you cannot push a syringe to save your life. I
have trouble. I have one and I have arthritis and it's fucking kind of hard sometimes.
Could you imagine? Like, I went to Kim's house and she was bawling, crying, thinking that she was doing something wrong because she couldn't get it to work to go into a capsule. And I tried doing it and I was like, I can't even do this, let alone without neuropathy. So that's where we came up with the chocolate solution. We were able to mix it and evenly dose it into these little tiny mint dark chocolates. The mint covers the taste. Yeah. The mint covers the taste really well. It's almost like a peppermint patty in a way. But it's just this tiny cube, because that's the other thing is cancer patients can't keep a lot of food down sometimes. So
true. So you try to make it small to accommodate that.
Yeah. And diabetics, because we have our main cancer patient actually that we really started molding this around before Troy got sick. Kim, she is a diabetic and we had to be careful with her. That's the last thing we needed to do, is her not to be able to do a chemo treatment because her sugar was high, or
Yeah, sure. And that's a concern certainly for I've been trying to cut back on the sugar. So when I want edibles, it would be nice to be able to find something that's not loaded with sugar. Even though the sugar is certainly, I know that the THC binds well to the sugar.
Yeah.
But I don't always want a ton of sugar.
What about tinctures or infused oils?
Yeah, tinctures are nice. I've tried some really nice tinctures. My kid in Stowe's got one, the Cannabis Collective. His tincture was really nice. But I love that stuff because I could just throw a few drops. It was like, I think 500 milligrams THC, 1,000 CBD, in a little 2-ounce dropper, and that lasted me a couple of weeks, maybe. I have a very low tolerance, like I said, which is nice. So that kind of stuff lasts me a while. It really helps me sleep. It helps the joint pain from the arthritis, and it really, that's my favorite thing about this retail market, is that it's going to allow people to make carefully controlled doses of edibles and things like that, that I could get in a store. That because you go to your homie and he's like, here, eat a cookie, you can have a whole one, they're not that strong, and then 3 hours later I'm fucking glued to the couch thinking about fucking aliens and shit.
Well, you try to ask them what the THC content is, and they're like, I don't know, I use 2 sticks of butter. And you're like, how strong was the butter? Like,
yeah. And it's like, I want to be more careful about that, because for real, like the difference between 20 milligrams and 50 is the difference between having a really nice night and a uncomfortable night of staring at the ceiling for a few hours and wondering if I took too much.
Well, consuming responsibly is one of the ways that you're going to get the public that is on the fence about cannabis to understand that it's really not dangerous. We're not going to be running through the streets naked and stuff like that. This is not there is still some very serious devil's lettuce type hysteria around it,
which is unfortunate. It seems like there's enough well, I feel like people want to see actual science, which is weird, because instead we have just thousands of years of in-field, human testing, which seems to be going pretty well, and that doesn't seem to count at all.
Yeah,
it's definitely, and unfortunately we have to wait for really, really, really rich people to get sick for this to be funded privately. I hate to say that, but that's what's going to have to happen, unless until they change the laws and it can be studied with federal grant money. It's going to take really rich people. There is Baltimore Ravens football player that is funding a CTE research at Johns Hopkins. And it's completely privately funded by other basketball or other football players and boxers that, are worried about CTE. I mean, that's serious. And the fact that thankfully these people that do get punch drunk and hit, they do have the money to pay for this, but we shouldn't have to wait for rich athletes to be doing this research.
I agree. Let me ask you this, Michelle. You made a comment when we were on the phone. You said, in your opinion, the CCB was maybe set up for failure. I was hoping maybe you would expand on that thought a little bit.
I feel like they just weren't given enough time, enough people. I feel like there's so many people that are complaining about what they're doing, but them themselves are doing the best they possibly can. There's a lot to be done. There is so much. What was the last count? 800 and some applications. Yeah. How they could possibly do that in that short time frame with that few people, in my opinion, is set up for. I would never expect something to run smoothly like that. But I mean, who could have known that there was going to be this many applications? I didn't think there would be that many. But even if there was 400 or 500 applications, I feel like they would still be overwhelmed and people would be upset. I feel like people are going to be upset anyways, but I feel like no one should be upset with the CCB. They are making the best of what they're doing and what they were handed. They are really trying to do what they can with what they've got.
Now, do you guys have your applications in?
Yes, we do.
Did you do the pre-qual?
No, we didn't actually. We decided not to. After we spoke with our lawyers, we decided not to do the pre-qual.
Why did you decide that?
Basically, it was just going to be entirely too much stuff that they said really wasn't that necessary. It was while we're trying to do the cultivation one, the manufacturing one isn't going to be needed for quite a while. They told us to just kind of wait on it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was really any advantage to going with the pre-qual.
And it just cost you more money.
It doesn't technically, it costs more labor hours and money, but not more actual money. But it's definitely what I want to focus on this one. And I'm still doing with permits and Act 250. I literally had a nightmare about Act 250 last night. Woke up freaking out.
What was it about?
Just my application, I filled something out wrong, so they were gonna have to make me start all the way from the beginning. And we're going on 11 weeks now.
That's how long your application's been in?
That's how long I've been dealing with trying to do the application.
Get the Act 250 stuff done.
It's been a lot. And
Now, what is the Act 250 stuff? That deals with like nuisance, like
property.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it was put into place to protect the environment, and it's any property that's over 10 acres or isn't it on a watershed or has what, like a lake, or not a lake, a river or something like that. And you just have to meet all these criteria, which I understand, but for the building that's there, all I'm trying to do is replace carpet tile and put down vinyl floor tile and put in a sink and a dishwasher. No, like actual, I'm not leveling ground, I'm not doing any of this other stuff, but it's looking like I'm gonna have to pay someone to come out there and prove that I'm not gonna be producing any odor. That doesn't even make sense. Who could afford to pay all, there's, what was it, 10 criteria you have to meet, and under each criteria, there's like 4 to 6 bullet points. That to me doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to get some more clarification because the agent that is representing the property isn't quite sure either, but it is just hours and hours and hours of stuff that to me just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and well, see, the outdoor growing is still considered agriculture, right? If you're doing a tier 1 outdoor.
Yep.
His is easy.
Yeah, mine was easy peasy.
We say his because that's his grow, and then mine.
I was gonna say that you guys are in a weird position because that's considered agriculture, but growing indoor is still regulated under like Chapter 7 or whatever the fuck it is.
Yep.
Like with alcohol and stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's weird. That seems like a strange position for people with the mixed license.
Definitely.
I haven't even thought about it. Go ahead.
We're very thankful for that aspect, that we will have the outdoor grow no matter what, because at the end of the day, a lot of the outdoor grows are going to be what funds cannabis patients' treatments, because it's a lot cheaper to give someone a pound of outdoor flower than indoor flower, and we can process that into FICO. So the cost is going to be so much lower. That's pretty much where all, in my opinion, cancer patients are going to get free FICO from, is from outdoor grows. And that's a lot of growers that we've met already. We've already met a lot of growers, and we've known a few before. They've already offered up plant material after they harvest, and it's definitely an amazing community, the amount of people that are just willing to donate. Not even the VCCN purchase them, but just they've offered us material.
I was gonna say, I feel like you probably couldn't grow enough with the tier 1 to satisfy the kind of demand that you guys have for flower.
Not even close.
So you've been working with other locals, and they're gonna help you guys out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we have been. The last 4 years, people have been donating us material for. It's been amazing. We just 3 months ago got donated almost 2 pounds of material from Freedom Flower. Thank you, Freedom Flower.
That's Chris. Yeah. Chris seems like a super nice guy.
He personally funded almost one person's entire treatment.
Wow.
I mean, that's just amazing what people are willing to do. And then we had someone, I don't know if you've heard anything about the cannabinoid CBG, but it's been shown to kill cancer. And someone, and I believe it was Brattleboro, donated a pound of CBG
Southern
flower.
Vermont. They donated quite a bit.
Yeah. So now Kim, who has breast cancer, second time, her treatment is really high in CBG. And it's absolutely amazing that we've been able to offer everyone that by other people donating.
Are you tracking your results in any way when you're treating these people?
We've had mixed results on whether people are willing to let us do that. We originally were doing that, and then someone was like, hold on, what do you mean you're writing this down? Because I wanted to be able to remember in 3 hours that she needed A, B, and C, because she had A, B, and C. And she got all like aluminum foil on me and like hung up the phone and everything. And I was like, I needed to be able to remember what we were talking about so that I can get you everything.
I understand that. Yeah, fully.
We're very much on the fence on what to do there, because some people don't want it written down. And I'm like, well, I could do like a fake name.
Sure.
How can we do this? So right now we're kind of just seeing as we go type of thing. And we know what works for everyone, and we can go back and ask them type of thing.
Are there people who are letting you track that?
Yes. For example, well, of course, Troy, we've tracked every bit of it.
Cool.
And then Kim, of course, we've been with Kim every step of this way and seeing what works for her. And, if it didn't work for her, what can we try for the next person? It may not have helped Kim, but it's going to help the next person.
Now, you said, Michelle, that you had some people take advantage of your generosity here. Tell me about that, if you don't mind.
Unfortunately, there's people out there that will abuse the system. At the end of the day, we had people donate material and then we gave it to someone else, and it turns out that they did have cancer, but they no longer had it, and they actually didn't use cannabis at all. It was for their husband. So we then, out of our pockets, had to replace everything, which was fine because at the end of the day, I didn't do enough research. So now we do unfortunately have to go through somewhat of a process, but all we do is either make someone, if they do not have health insurance, for example, we're not going to make them go and see a doctor just for a letter. You can literally just show us something that's like a piece of paper with your name and date on it that shows you have cancer. If you do have health insurance, there's letters that you can get from your doctors that say, and that you will have treatment until this date. And then when that date comes up, we would get another form, because as you know, cancer is not, okay, 3 months and you're going to be cancer free. Doesn't work like that.
And how do you get these referrals to these people?
Other people with cancer, unfortunately,
Word of mouth.
it's the chemo rooms at the hospitals hear a lot about us because one person's taking it and they tell the other two ladies and stuff like that. A lot of word of mouth. Damien from Higher Elevation, actually, just
another great guy.
Yeah, isn't he great? Yeah. He just introduced us as someone that we're helping now. And we do what we can with what we have. Like I said, cancer patients are at the top of that, and then we kind of go from there.
And then do you put the FICO in like the syringes like I've typically seen?
Yep, but no, then it goes into the chocolates.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
like we do a big batch. We make 380 of these little squares at a time. And then we give them a bunch of little squares, because it would be, not to mention the emotional toll of cancer. The last thing you want to do is having to heat up this syringe and like put it in there, let alone if you can do it.
Or it's like messy. They waste some of it and they're like, they get upset because it's like their medicine and they need it.
That's
and
how
it's expensive,
I got some on the free grinder that Damien gave me, and it's all stuck. I'm gonna have to get some alcohol or something if I can get it off there.
Everclear.
Yeah, it's really sticky.
It's very sticky. That's exactly why we do it in the chocolate, because it's a lot easier for someone to take.
And how many milligrams, like in one chocolate?
We do, depending on what they need.
Oh,
so
okay.
for example, we make
custom chocolates. Wow.
So like Kim's, for example, she takes 50 milligram chocolates and they taste like crap because they are basically all FICO.
Yeah.
Whereas we just gave someone some and they're only 5 milligrams because they don't have a ton. They're actually still on the fence on if they're going to do it. They're willing to. Their granddaughter got them to try it. So they're willing. So we didn't give them a full batch of 380. We gave them 100 and told them, let us know, and then come back to us in a few weeks, let us know, and we'll make you another batch of whatever dose you'd like. It's definitely per person's dose, because that's the other thing. You don't want someone having to cut a piece of chocolate into 4 pieces, depending on their tolerance. That's not really fair to ask them that.
Now, let me ask you this. What's the highest dose you've ever served to a patient, like daily? What's the highest amount you've ever known anyone to eat?
Well, Kim takes 400 a night, and then he takes 600 a night.
Ooh, Jesus, Troy.
I take 2. I take 2 to sleep. And like I said, Kim, but they've worked their tolerance up to this point.
Yeah.
They've worked there. This has not been like they just started doing it. No,
no, you don't just start doing 600.
No. You'd never wake up you would wake up, but you would be waking up at
very
like 4
groggy.
PM. Yeah.
Very groggy.
I was groggy just hearing that.
The more you can get in you, the better when it comes to cancer.
Now sorry, go ahead. Finish
no
that.
Research, like there's no like you need to take this amount of milligrams. Just like for Troy's cancer treatment, there is a how it works. You take this much of this drug, this much of this drug, this much of this drug every week. Whereas with cannabis and cancer, there's no research studies to tell me this is how much people need to take. So we just try to give them as much as possible when it comes to the FICO.
Okay. Now, and I wanted to ask you about the testing. You said you had some issues with at least one of the labs in Vermont not testing maybe your whole sample or not getting an accurate sample test. Do you mind talking about some of those details?
Yeah, unfortunately right now, because the cannabis world is so new, there's not any companies that are testing the whole item. They are, for example, my peppermint patties have unmedicated chocolate on the outside and a medicated inside. If you only were to test 1 gram of that, the percentages be off. So what they do is test 1 gram and then multiply it by the weight instead of testing the entire piece. Well, if the gram that they take has more chocolate or less chocolate, the numbers are going to be all off. So unfortunately, I took the same batch to this lab and then the same one to a different lab and got totally different results. And I found out why. Really? Yeah, we found out why. And that was why. It was because when they explain their process, they grind it into a dust basically, and they take a gram of that, which is fine if the entire thing was medicated. But that's just, they haven't gotten to that point. I do
believe it would have to be like even thickness, like the whole, if they were going to do it, and like
it's not. It's chocolate. It's not. You cannot do that. And so our results came back. I can't even remember what they were. It was like 30 or 40 milligrams lower than it was supposed to be, whereas the other company came back with, I think, 97 milligrams, and these were like 60 or 70. It was very interesting. But once we asked about the process and how they did it, that it made sense. So we're hoping that they're going to adapt. But as of right now, there's no real testing standards listed by the CCB. So I'm hoping that they're going to tell them how to do it, and that's it. We go by that.
I'm also curious about that because it seems like if we are to test these products, there needs to be a good standardized test used by every lab throughout the state to make sure that everyone's got sort of a level playing field.
Held to the same standard.
Exactly. Well, and because let's be real, there's ways you can adjust it. If the person adjusts the weight, there's so many ways that people could lie if there wasn't a straight way to do it. For example, MCR in Massachusetts, you do it the way they want you to do it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. So that way all the results are the same. They're done the same. It's definitely very interesting because it's so important. It is so important. Meeting our variances cost us so much money. And then for the test not to be done right, it's just like.
Well, also, you don't want to be giving like moldy weed to cancer patients.
Yep. Or ill-dosed edibles because they come back right. And then I've got, someone's grandma getting high as a kite when she's only taking it to help her a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then that's a whole nother issue. Once someone that's first trying it, especially for cancer, if they get too high the first time, they'll never touch it again. Never touch it again.
Very true.
That's why it's so important to start at a low dose whenever someone is trying to start someone new on cannabis, especially if they're against it.
What's the low? What would you say is a low dose that's safe to start at?
2.5 milligrams of THC and 5 milligrams of CBD. So a nice 1-to-2 ratio. Okay. We prefer 1-to-2 ratios or 1-to-1 for pretty much everything medicinally.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying about that tincture I got and stuff. That was like 500 to 1,000. And boy, it was really nice.
It's great. The CBD works with it. And
yeah, I could fall asleep without waking up feeling just super stupid. Getting that edible hangover,
That is the worst. I cannot. Do you get a headache when you get an edible hangover?
No, I'm just, I'm slow out of bed. Remember how I had to push this interview back half an hour? I'm slow out of bed anyway. And when I take too many edibles like the night before, it'll just be, I wake up and I just feel like I'm still sleeping for 2 hours.
See, I get a killer headache. That is the only side effect I get when I take too many edibles the night before.
No, I sometimes forget how to breathe. But that's my own little problem. Yeah. That's if I take, like if I took 100, boy, it's hard to like stand up and, I'm such a baby when it comes to edibles, which is a very nice thing.
It is a very good thing, yeah, because your tolerance will work up quickly.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you. You said you're doing a lot of your own accounting, and you're one of the very few. Tell us about that, Michelle.
Well, as of right now, we're going to be doing it. My dad actually has an accounting degree from VCU School of Business, and then I went to school to be a math teacher, and then business degree. That is the plan as of right now. We shall see how complicated this gets. We definitely, at the very least, I'm going to be able to handle quite a bit of it with my background, but I definitely think the accounting part of it is going to be very interesting, to say the least. It's going to be definitely a lot of hurdles.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you guys this. We're going to wrap this up. We got about 7 minutes. I want to ask you if you have any questions for the CCB. I'm going to interview Julie here soon. Do you guys have any questions that might be relevant and that might help them do their job a little better?
The testing.
The testing.
How are we doing testing? Are we going to do it where we test one piece? Well, excuse me, let me rephrase this. Test 4 different pieces from one batch, and then you get the average of those? Or are they going to have you test 4 pieces together and you get the average, if that makes sense? Are they going to have to make us submit 4 different tests, or are they going to make us just do one? So for example, I think it's Florida. I was just speaking with MCR about this. Florida, you have to get 4 samples tested from that batch, and then you do the average of those, and that's what goes on the edible packaging. Where in Massachusetts, you give them 4, they grind them all together, and they only test 1, and that's what goes on the packaging.
I got you.
How are they going to have us do it? Because the cost on that is literally 4 times the price. The cost on that.
That's a great question.
It's the same process. It's just way more expensive. Because that's one of the things we're working really close. We're getting that variance to 5%, getting closer and closer with every batch we make, making sure that they're all under that 5% variance. And it's hard to do when we don't know even how they're going to be testing. Because then if it's just testing one piece individually, that can also be an issue.
Are you guys going to be selling to medical dispensaries?
I'm not sure. We haven't actually heard much about if they're going to be purchasing from other people, because they've been making this stuff in-house.
Yeah, the ones in state are vertically integrated, so I don't know how much.
Another great point, Troy.
And I don't want to be too much of a. I don't think there's been a lot of good products coming out of those businesses, so I don't want to be associated with them, to be honest.
Yes,
so you don't even want to sell your product to those guys.
Not to Champlain Valley or Southern Vermont Wellness.
Not the guys that are in the game now.
Yeah.
What about the small local retail dispensaries, if they're allowed to?
All about it.
Yeah.
Like guys like Damien, I know is.
Damien for sure. Yeah.
We will be involved with all the local retailers.
Yep.
But
he had a great question about our retail dispensary is going to be allowed to sell. Say an 18-year-old kid comes in with a medical card, but like it seemed like the rules state that you have to designate one medical dispensary as your home dispensary, and you can't really sway from that.
I mean, I guess I could somewhat see why they're making that a rule, but I don't think it should be.
I'm not sure if I'm totally accurate on that, but I thought maybe Troy
was a card holder for a while, and I just didn't renew it because of how broken our medical program is.
Wow.
But if you're 18 and that's your only way to get it, you're going to.
But I can tell you for sure, you do have to pick a dispensary that you purchase from, and that's the only one that you can purchase from.
So you can't get a backup dispensary.
And for us, that was extremely difficult because I lived in the Northeast Kingdom, so I had to drive 2 hours.
Yeah.
To get to a dispensary that
I'm sure that was an issue for a lot of people. It was like Burlington, Rutland, and Montpelier. So if you live in Derby,
we live not far from Derby, so that's
right. Yeah. So exactly.
I remember driving to because I had a card as well, driving there for clones, and it was a 2-hour drive back with clones in the car in the summer. And we were terrified we were gonna die.
Look, we got 4 minutes. Do you guys have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Not that I could think of.
No? What if I end this video and come over right now and say hi?
To ours?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. I'm going to do that. This has been fascinating, guys. I really appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck with what you're doing. Really, really great stuff.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah. All right. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. For real, do you mind if I stop by? Oh.